My sister's text came at 3:17 a.m., and the moment I read it, I knew something was horribly wrong. Not because of what she said, but because Becca never asks for help, ever. I was deep asleep when my phone lit up on the nightstand. The glow cut through the dark room and pulled me out of a dream I can't remember. I grabbed it without thinking, expecting spam or a wrong number. Nobody texts at 3 in the morning with good news. But it was Becca, and the words on the screen made my blood run cold. "He's in the house. Don't come." I sat up so fast I got dizzy. My hands were already shaking as I hit the call button. It rang once, then went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. I texted back immediately, my fingers clumsy on the keyboard. "Who? Becca, what's happening?" 45 seconds passed. The longest 45 seconds of my life. Then her reply came through. "Please believe me." After that, nothing. I called again and again. Voicemail every time. I sent text after text. No response. My fiancé Marcus woke up and asked what was wrong. I told him to call 911 and send police to Becca's address. He started to say something about waiting, about being careful. I was already pulling on my shoes. The drive from my house to Becca's place takes 30 minutes if you follow the speed limit. I made it in 20. I don't remember most of the drive. I just remember gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. And I remember praying to a God I'm not even sure I believe in. Please, let her be okay. Please let me get there in time. When I turned onto her street, I saw the house right away. Every single light was on. The windows glowed bright against the dark neighborhood, and the front door was standing wide open. I knew then that something terrible had happened, because Becca is obsessive about locking doors. She checks them 3 times before bed, every single night. She has done this since we were kids, and she would never, ever leave her front door open in the middle of the night. I parked behind a silver car I didn't recognize. The engine was still warm when I walked past it. I could feel the heat rising off the hood. Whoever drove that car was still close. Maybe still inside. I should have waited for the police. I could hear sirens somewhere in the distance, maybe 5 minutes away. But 5 minutes feels like forever when your little sister isn't answering her phone and her door is hanging open at 3:30 in the morning. So I walked inside, and what I found changed everything. Subscribe for more stories and tell me where you're watching from. To understand that night, you need to understand Becca. And to understand Becca, you need to know who we were before everything fell apart. We grew up in a quiet suburb outside of Columbus, Ohio. Our parents, Diane and Frank, raised us in a brick house with a big backyard and a tire swing that hung from an old oak tree. Dad worked as an electrician. Mom was a receptionist at a dentist's office. We weren't rich, but we had enough. We had each other. Becca is 3 years younger than me. Growing up, she was always the quiet one. I was loud, bossy, always getting into trouble for talking back. Becca was careful. She thought before she spoke. She colored inside the lines. Teachers loved her because she followed the rules and never caused problems. I used to tease her about it. I called her the family's little perfectionist. But being careful wasn't a personality quirk for Becca. It was survival. She was anxious in ways I didn't fully understand until we were older. She checked the locks on the doors multiple times every night. She needed routines to feel safe. Change made her nervous. Surprises made her panic. Our mom used to say Becca felt everything deeper than most people. At the time, I thought that was just something parents say. Now I know it was true. After high school, I went to nursing school and moved into an apartment with friends. Becca stayed closer to home. She got a degree in accounting and took a job at a local firm. She was good at it. Numbers made sense to her. They followed rules. They didn't surprise you or let you down. 3 years ago, Becca bought her own place. A small house on the edge of town with 2 bedrooms and a little garden out back. She was so proud of it. I remember helping her move in, watching her walk through the empty rooms with this look on her face like she couldn't believe it was really hers. "I did this by myself," she said. "Nobody helped me. This is mine." That was Becca. Independent, determined. She didn't like asking for help because she wanted to prove she could handle things on her own. I moved 30 minutes away and got engaged to Marcus. He's a good man, steady, patient, kind. We bought a house together and started planning a wedding. Life was busy in that good way, where you're tired at the end of the day, but you're building something. I talked to Becca a few times a week, saw her at family dinners, assumed everything was fine. She never said otherwise. About 6 months before that night, Becca told me she was seeing someone. His name was Wesley Pruitt. She said he worked in pharmaceutical sales and traveled a lot for work. She said he was charming, attentive, and treated her well. I asked when I could meet him. She said soon, but she wanted to take things slow. That was classic Becca. Cautious about everything, especially people. The first time I met Wesley was at a restaurant for Becca's birthday. He showed up in a nice suit with a bottle of expensive wine and a smile that showed all his teeth. He shook my hand firmly and called me the famous older sister. He complimented my mom's earrings and asked my dad about the Browns' chances that season. He seemed perfect, almost too perfect. I remember watching him with Becca that night, the way he put his hand on her lower back when they walked to the table, the way he ordered her drink for her without asking what she wanted, the way Becca smiled at him, but the smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Later, in the bathroom, I asked her if she was happy. "Of course I'm happy," she said. "Why wouldn't I be?" I didn't have an answer. It was just a feeling, something in my gut that said things weren't right. But Becca was an adult. She was smart. She wouldn't stay with someone who treated her badly. So I told myself I was imagining things, and I let it go. Over the next few months, I started noticing changes. Small things at first. Becca canceled our coffee dates last minute. She stopped answering calls right away and would text back hours later with short responses. When we did talk, she seemed distracted. She laughed at the wrong moments. She asked questions, and then didn't listen to the answers. At Mom's birthday dinner 3 weeks before that night, Becca came alone. Wesley was traveling, she said, but she checked her phone constantly. Every time it buzzed, she flinched. She excused herself twice to take calls in the hallway. When she came back, her eyes were red. I pulled her aside after dinner. "Becca, what's going on? You seem stressed." She smiled that same smile from the restaurant. "I'm just tired. Work has been crazy. You know how it is." I wanted to push harder. I wanted to sit her down and make her tell me the truth. But Marcus was waiting in the car, and I had an early shift the next morning, and Becca was already hugging Mom goodbye. So I told myself I'd call her later that week and check in. I didn't. 2 weeks went by. I texted a few times, got short replies. I told myself she was busy. I told myself if something was really wrong, she would tell me. Then came the night everything changed. It started with a phone call. Becca called me at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Her voice sounded strange, too calm, too controlled, like she was reading from a script. She asked me about Grandma's old recipe for apple cake. It was such a random question. We hadn't made that cake in years. I played along, gave her the recipe from memory, but the whole time I felt like something was off. The conversation felt forced, like she was stalling, trying to keep me on the phone. Then I heard something in the background, a door closing, footsteps. "I have to go," Becca said suddenly. "Love you." She hung up before I could respond. I texted her right away. "You okay? That was weird." She sent back a thumbs up emoji. Just that, nothing else. Becca never uses emojis. She thinks they're lazy. She writes incomplete sentences with proper punctuation. A thumbs up wasn't her. It felt like someone else had sent it. I should have driven over that night. I should have called our parents. I should have done something. Instead, I convinced myself I was overreacting. Marcus said Becca was probably just having a rough week. I told myself I'd see her at Sunday dinner, and we'd talk then. But Sunday never came, because 2 nights later, my phone lit up at 3:17 a.m. with a message that would haunt me forever. "He's in the house. Don't come." 2 nights before that 3 a.m. text, I got a phone call that I should have taken more seriously. It was almost 11 at night. Marcus and I were on the couch watching some crime show we'd seen 3 times already. My phone rang, and Becca's name popped up on the screen. I paused the TV and answered, expecting her to ask about weekend plans or complain about something at work. But the voice on the other end didn't sound like my sister. It sounded like someone pretending to be my sister. "Hey, I have a weird question," she said. Her tone was flat, almost robotic. "Do you remember Grandma's recipe for apple cake? The one she used to make for Thanksgiving?" I sat up a little straighter. We hadn't talked about that cake in years. Grandma passed away when I was in college, and nobody had made her apple cake since. "Yeah, I think so," I said slowly. "Brown sugar, cinnamon, those chunks of apple she never peeled. Why?" "I was just thinking about it," Becca said. "Wanted to try making it this weekend." Something felt wrong. The conversation was too casual, too random. Becca didn't bake, she barely cooked, and her voice had this quality to it, like she was performing for someone, saying lines she had rehearsed. I kept talking, giving her the recipe from memory, but the whole time I was listening for something in the background, trying to figure out what was happening on her end. Then I heard it, a door closing, heavy footsteps, and Becca's breath catching in her throat. "I have to go," she said quickly. "Love you." The line went dead before I could respond. I sat there staring at my phone for a long moment. Marcus asked what was wrong. I told him I wasn't sure, that Becca seemed off. He said she was probably just stressed from work. I wanted to believe him. I texted her immediately. "You okay?" That was weird. A minute later, she sent back a single thumbs up emoji. My stomach dropped. Becca hated emojis. She thought they were impersonal and lazy. She always wrote in full sentences with proper grammar. A thumbs up was so far from her normal communication style that it might as well have been a flashing red warning sign. I typed out another message. "Becca, seriously, is everything all right? You don't seem like yourself." No response. I waited 10 minutes, then 20. Nothing. I told myself I would call her the next morning. I told myself there was probably a simple explanation. Maybe she was tired. Maybe Wesley was there and she didn't want to talk in front of him. Maybe I was being paranoid. I barely slept that night. The next day, I tried calling Becca 3 times. Each call went to voicemail. I left messages asking her to call me back, keeping my voice light even though my chest felt tight with worry. Finally, around 7 in the evening, I got a text from her. "Super busy with work stuff. Talk soon." I read it over and over, looking for something that would make me feel better, but the message felt wrong. The punctuation was off. Becca would have written, "I'm super busy, not just super busy." She would have asked how I was doing. She would have suggested a specific time to talk. This felt rushed, almost like someone was standing over her shoulder watching her type. I showed Marcus the text. He read it and shrugged. "Seems fine to me," he said. "You're overthinking this." "Something's not right," I said. "I can feel it." He put his hand on my shoulder. "Then call her again tomorrow, or drive over this weekend. But don't spiral tonight, okay? You have that double shift in the morning." He was trying to help. I knew that, but his words felt like permission to do nothing, and I took it. I convinced myself that Becca was a grown woman who could handle her own life. I told myself that if she needed me, she would ask. That night, I went to bed early. I was exhausted from worry and lack of sleep. I plugged in my phone, set my alarm for 5 a.m., and closed my eyes. I don't know how long I was asleep before the buzzing started. My phone lit up on the nightstand, the glow cutting through the darkness like a knife. I grabbed it without opening my eyes, expecting spam, expecting a wrong number, expecting anything other than what I saw. A text from Becca, timestamp 3:17 a.m. "He's in the house, don't come." I was fully awake in an instant. My heart slammed against my ribs. I called her immediately. 1 ring, then voicemail. I called again. Straight to voicemail. My fingers trembled as I typed a response. "Who? Becca, what's happening?" The seconds stretched into an eternity. Then my phone buzzed again. "Please believe me." After that, nothing. I called 5 more times. I sent text after text. The silence on the other end was deafening. Marcus was awake now, asking what was wrong. I threw off the covers and grabbed the first clothes I could find. "Call 911, I told him. "Send them to Becca's house. Something's wrong." He reached for my arm. "Jenna, wait for the police. Don't go there alone." I was already at the bedroom door. "She's my sister," I said. "I'm not waiting." The drive to Becca's house usually takes 30 minutes. That night, I made it in 20. I don't remember much about the roads. I ran at least 2 red lights. I took the curves too fast and felt my tires skid on the pavement. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard that my knuckles ached. The whole time, I kept glancing at my phone in the passenger seat, praying for it to light up with a message from Becca saying she was okay, saying it was all a misunderstanding, saying anything at all. It stayed dark. I tried to make sense of her words. He's in the house. Don't come. Who was he? Wesley? Someone else? And why would she tell me not to come if she was in danger? That didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like a code, like she was saying one thing but meaning another. Please believe me. Those 3 words echoed in my head as I drove. Becca knew I would come. She knew that telling me not to would only make me more determined to get there. She was smart. She was careful. If she sent that message, she had a reason. I turned onto her street and my breath caught in my throat. Every light in the house was on. The windows blazed bright against the dark neighborhood. It looked wrong, like a house that was screaming for attention in the middle of the night. And the front door was wide open. I pulled up to the curb behind a silver sedan I had never seen before. My headlights washed over the back of the car, and I noticed the license plate, Ohio tags, but I didn't recognize the numbers. I parked and got out, leaving my door hanging open because I didn't want to waste time closing it. As I walked past the silver car, I felt heat rising off the hood. The engine was still warm. Whoever drove this car had arrived recently. They might still be inside. I stopped at the edge of the front yard and listened. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance, maybe 5 minutes away. Marcus had called the police like I asked. Help was coming. I should wait. I should stay outside where it was safe and let the professionals handle this. But 5 minutes is a long time when your sister isn't answering her phone. 5 minutes is forever when her front door is hanging open and you don't know if she's alive or dead. I crossed the yard and stepped onto the porch. The door was open about 2 feet, enough for me to see inside without pushing it further. The living room looked like a bomb had gone off. The coffee table was overturned. A lamp lay shattered on the floor. Pieces of glass scattered across the carpet. Magazines and books were thrown everywhere, and on the wall near the hallway, I saw something that made my stomach turn. Long scratches in the paint, fingernail marks, like someone had been dragged and tried to grab onto anything they could. "Becca?" I called out. My voice came out thin, shaky. "Becca, it's me. It's Jenna." No answer. I stepped inside, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Glass crunched under my shoes. I moved past the destroyed living room toward the hallway. The bathroom door was open, the light on. Nobody inside. The hall closet stood open too, coats and boxes spilling onto the floor like someone had ripped through it, searching for something. I reached the bedroom door. It was closed. My hand hovered over the doorknob. I thought about everything that could be waiting on the other side. I thought about the scratches on the wall and the warm engine of the car outside. I thought about every sign I had missed, every phone call I should have made, every moment I chose to believe that Becca was fine because believing otherwise was too hard. I turned the knob and pushed the door open. The bedroom was dim, lit only by the glow of a nightlight plugged into the far wall. It took my eyes a second to adjust. Then I saw her. Becca was sitting on the floor in the corner of the room, her back pressed against the wall, her knees pulled tight to her chest. She was holding a kitchen knife in both hands, the blade pointed outward, her fingers white from gripping the handle. Her face was swollen and bruised. Her lip was split and bleeding. Her shirt was torn at the collar, but she was alive. She was breathing. She was looking right at me. "Jenna?" Her voice cracked when she said my name, like she couldn't believe I was real. I dropped to my knees in front of her. I wanted to grab her, hold her, pull her into my arms and never let go. But she was still holding that knife, still shaking so hard it rattled against the floor. "I'm here," I said, keeping my voice as calm as I could. "You're safe now. I'm here." Tears spilled down her cheeks, mixing with the blood from her lip. She didn't make a sound. She just cried silently, her whole body trembling. "Where is he?" I asked. "Becca, where did he go?" She shook her head slowly, her eyes darting toward the window. I don't know, she whispered. He ran when he heard your car pull up. I think he went out the back. I reached out and gently put my hands over hers on the knife. You can let go now, I said softly. I've got you. The police are almost here. You're safe. She looked at me for a long moment, her eyes searching my face like she was trying to make sure I was really there. Then her grip loosened. The knife slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor. She fell forward into my arms and I caught her, holding her as tight as I could while she sobbed against my shoulder. Outside, the sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights flashed through the bedroom window. Help had finally arrived. But I was already there, and that was the only thing that mattered. The police came through the front door with their guns drawn, shouting commands into the empty house. I held Becca tighter and yelled that we were in the bedroom, that we weren't armed, that my sister needed help. 2 officers appeared in the doorway, their flashlights cutting through the dim room. When they saw us huddled on the floor, they lowered their weapons and radioed for paramedics. One of them knelt beside us and asked if we were hurt. I shook my head and pointed at Becca. She needs help, I said. He beat her. I don't know how bad it is. They called for an ambulance while more officers swept through the house, checking closets and corners, securing the back door that was still hanging open. Becca stayed pressed against me, her body shaking with silent sobs. I smoothed her hair and whispered that it was over, that she was safe, that nobody was going to hurt her again. The paramedics arrived within minutes. They were gentle with her, speaking in soft voices as they checked her injuries. Bruised ribs, a cut on her forehead that might need stitches, defensive wounds on her forearms, deep scratches and purple bruises where she had blocked his blows. She had been fighting him for hours. She had fought hard. They wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and led us outside to the ambulance. The street was alive with flashing lights and radio chatter. Neighbors stood on their porches in bathrobes, watching the chaos unfold. I climbed into the back of the ambulance with Becca and held her hand while they cleaned the blood from her face. Can you tell me what happened? One of the paramedics asked her gently. Becca stared at the floor for a long moment. Then she started talking, and everything I thought I knew about her life fell apart. Wesley had been controlling her for months. It started small, she said. He would comment on what she wore, suggesting she change into something less revealing. He would ask who she was texting and get upset if she didn't show him. He told her that her friends were a bad influence, that her family didn't understand her the way he did. At first, Becca thought it was love. She thought he was protective because he cared. By the time she realized it was something darker, she was already trapped. He installed tracking apps on her phone so he always knew where she was. He showed up at her office unannounced to make sure she wasn't talking to other men. He went through her emails, her messages, her bank statements. He isolated her from everyone who cared about her, piece by piece, until she felt completely alone. When she finally told him she wanted to break up, he laughed. He said nobody would believe her if she tried to leave. He said he would ruin her reputation, tell everyone she was crazy, make sure she lost her job and her friends and her family. He said if she ever tried to run, he would find her. Tonight, she had tried anyway. She told him it was over. She asked him to leave. He showed up at 2 a.m., drunk and furious. He broke in through the back door while she was sleeping. She woke up to him standing over her bed, his face twisted with rage. "You think you can leave me?" he had said. "You don't get to leave." What happened next was a blur of violence and terror. He grabbed her. She screamed. He threw her against the wall. She kicked and scratched and bit, fighting with everything she had. At some point, she managed to break free long enough to grab her phone and send me that text. She knew he was watching, so she told me not to come. She knew I would understand. When Wesley realized what she had done, he went into a rage. He dragged her down the hallway. She clawed at the walls, leaving those scratches I had seen. She broke free again and locked herself in the bedroom with a kitchen knife from the block on her counter. She sat in that corner for over an hour, listening to him pace outside the door, waiting for him to break through. Then he heard my car pull up. He heard the engine, saw the headlights through the window, and he ran out the back like the coward he was. "I knew you would come," Becca said, her voice barely above a whisper. That's why I said don't come. He was watching me type. If I told you to come, he would have waited for you at the door. I felt tears streaming down my face. You knew I would. Understand. She looked at me with those bruised, exhausted eyes. You're my sister. You always understand. An officer approached the ambulance and asked to speak with us. He told us they had found Wesley 2 blocks away, hiding in his car. The scratches on his face and arms matched Becca's fingernails. Her blood was on his shirt. He was in handcuffs in the back of a squad car, waiting to be transported to the station. I asked if I could see him. The officer hesitated, then nodded. I climbed out of the ambulance and walked toward the squad car parked at the end of the street. Wesley sat in the back seat, his head down, his wrists cuffed behind him. He looked smaller than I remembered, weaker. The charm was gone. The expensive suits and perfect smiles meant nothing now. He didn't look up as I approached. He didn't say a word. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the man who had tortured my sister for months. The man who made her feel worthless and trapped and alone. The man who thought he could break her. But Becca wasn't broken. She had fought back. She had survived. And now he was going to pay for every single thing he had done to her. Becca moved in with Marcus and me the next day. Her house was a crime scene, and even if it wasn't, I don't think she could have stepped back inside those walls. Not after what happened there. The first week was the hardest. She barely slept. I would hear her at 3 a.m, padding down the hallway to check the locks on the front door. She checked them over and over, sometimes 5 or 6 times before she could go back to bed. I never said anything about it. I just made sure the locks were always secure and left a nightlight on in the hallway so she wouldn't have to walk through the dark. She didn't talk much at first. She sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing, flinching every time a car drove past the house. I brought her tea and sat beside her, not pushing, not asking questions, just being there. Sometimes that's all you can do for someone who has been through something terrible. You just stay. Our parents came over every day. Mom would bring food that Becca barely touched. Dad would sit in the living room not saying much, just watching his daughter with this look on his face, like his heart was breaking in slow motion. He blamed himself. I could see it in his eyes. He kept saying he should have noticed something was wrong. He should have asked more questions when Wesley came into her life. But the truth is, we all missed the signs. Every single one of us. Wesley was good at hiding what he really was. He knew how to charm people, how to make everything seem normal, how to isolate Becca so slowly that none of us noticed until it was almost too late. The police charged Wesley with breaking and entering, assault, and stalking. The evidence was overwhelming. Becca's DNA was under his fingernails. Her blood was on his clothes. The neighbors heard screaming that night and gave statements. His own phone records showed months of obsessive behavior, hundreds of texts demanding to know where she was, threatening messages he sent when she didn't respond fast enough. His lawyer tried to paint Becca as unstable. He brought up her anxiety, tried to make it sound like she had imagined the whole thing. I sat in the front row of the courtroom during the preliminary hearing and watched my sister take the stand. Her voice shook, but she didn't back down. She told her story clearly, calmly, with a strength I didn't know she had. Wesley took a plea deal to avoid trial, 5 years in prison, a restraining order that lasts for the rest of his life. It wasn't enough. Nothing would ever be enough. But it was something. It was a start. Becca started therapy a few weeks after the hearing. She found a support group for survivors of domestic abuse and started attending meetings every Tuesday night. She told me it helped to talk to people who understood what she had been through, people who didn't judge her for staying as long as she did, people who knew that leaving isn't as simple as walking out the door. She's different now, quieter in some ways, more cautious. She still checks locks before bed. She still jumps at loud noises, but she's also more honest than she used to be. She calls me when she's having a bad day instead of pretending everything is fine. She lets our parents back into her life in ways she never did before. She stopped trying to handle everything alone. I'm different too. That night taught me something I will never forget. Believing someone doesn't mean waiting for them to ask for help in the exact right way. Sometimes belief looks like showing up when they tell you not to. Sometimes it means trusting your gut when something feels wrong, even when everyone around you says you're overreacting. I think about that text message all the time. Don't come. 2 words that meant the opposite of what they said. Becca knew me well enough to know I would read between the lines. She trusted me to understand, and I am grateful every single day that I listened, not just to what she said, but to what she couldn't say out loud. Becca is living on her own again now, a new apartment in a safer neighborhood, closer to our parents. She has new locks, a security system, and a cat named Potato who sleeps at the foot of her bed every night. She's rebuilding her life one day at a time. Some days are harder than others, but she's still here. She's still fighting, and I will never stop showing up for her. If you want more stories, subscribe and tell me where you're watching from.